What's up everyone, it's Blue here at Bluebears Games, and today's video will be my upgrade guide for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Veloci-Ramptor Commander Precon. Before I get to today's video, I want to first take a moment to let you know that if you'd like to help support my channel, you can do so in the following ways. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share any of my content on your socials so other people can discover it, and or watch some of my many other videos yourself. In addition to that, if you're interested in ways that you can help support my channel monetarily, please read the description of this video, and there you will find a myriad of options for what you can do to help me keep this channel going. Anything that you can do to help is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. I've done enough of these guides by now that you should know the deal, but just in case you don't, here's how I do them. I'll start by showing you the cards that I would recommend removing first, and then I'll show you the cards that I would add back in that I believe will help make this deck either more fun to play a little better, or best case scenario, both. What I've decided to do for this guide is to just lower the average mana value of the deck, while pretty much keeping the rest of the theme intact. It won't be many changes, mind you, but what changes I'm about to recommend should make the deck a little faster, more fun to play, and just overall better. So, let's get started, and as I mentioned earlier, I'll begin by showing you what I'd recommend taking out first. I would remove 1 Forest, 1 Plains, Exotic Orchard, Migration Path, Verdant Sun's Avatar, Rampaging Brontodon, Earthshaker Dreadmaw, Bellowing Aegosaur, Fiery Confluence, and From the Rubble. That's 10 cards in total that I would remove, which is the fewest cards I've recommended removing from a WotC precon to date. Could I have taken more out? Absolutely. But to keep the theme and spirit of this deck intact, I didn't want to take out more than I absolutely had to. Out of the box, this deck had a whopping 39 lands and 13 ramp style cards, which is over half the deck, and that's just too many in my opinion. I understand why, but with some of the changes that I just made, combined with what I'll be recommending to add back in, this deck won't need nearly as many sources of mana. So what 10 cards would I add back in? Let's take a look. I'll start by showing you 3 creatures that are cheaper to cast than the ones that I said to remove, but frankly are much better for the mana cost that they are. The first creature is called Tranquil Frillback. Worst case scenario, this is a 3/3 dinosaur for 3 mana early game. Mid to late game though, it's also now removal or life gain that will most likely be sorely needed. The second creature is called Scytheclaw Raptor. 3 mana for a vanilla 4/3 is not bad, but add in the fact that it also punishes your opponents for casting spells on other people's turns to the tune of 4 damage a spell, and now you've really got something. In essence, this kind of makes your opponents think twice about using those instants that they have as intended. You can really put a stranglehold on blue mages with this one. And the third and final creature that I'll recommend adding back in is called Bone Horde Dracosaur. 5 mana for a 5/5 flyer with first strike is pretty good. Add in the ability to play more cards with its quasi card draw ability and the ability to make creature and treasure tokens on each of your upkeeps for free, and that makes this a great creature. Also, did I mention that it's also the only dragon dinosaur in the game currently? That doesn't add anything to the card's power level necessarily, but it is still kinda neat. Next, I want to show you 3 enchantments that will help this deck immensely. The first enchantment is called Invasion of Ikoria, which can transform into Zilortha, Apex of Ikoria. The invasion part of this card is a tutor that gets a creature and puts it directly into play for you, and then if you defeat the battle part, it transforms into a legendary dinosaur that makes pretty much all of your creatures unblockable, even if they're blocked. Basically, both halves of this card do exactly what you want in a combat-based deck that's not centered around a human creature type. The second enchantment is called Garruk's Uprising. Let's face it, dinosaurs and trample go together like peas and carrots. Most of them have decently high powers, and this will give them a way to stop from being chump blocked. The added bonus here, though, is that it also is a source of repeatable card draw, which is sorely needed. Speaking of repeatable card draw, the third and final enchantment that I'll recommend is called Tribute to the World Tree. This is another card that provides repeatable card draw, but it also helps the few little guys that are in the deck to grow up and be stronger if they aren't quite strong enough to trigger the card draw ability. And the last three cards that I want to show you before going over a combo are all artifacts that provide some pretty good utility to the deck. The first artifact is called Dino DNA. The cool part of this card is that the imprint of exiling a creature card from a graveyard is not restricted to just your graveyard, so it provides graveyard hate as well as dinosaur token creation. While the token creation ability of this card can only be activated as a sorcery, it can also be done as many times as you have the mana to do so, which means late game, this could pump out a lot of dinosaur tokens for you. The second artifact is called Herald's Horn. Like I said moments ago, good utility. It reduces the cost of your dinos and puts more cards in your hand. It's just overall good in tribal/kinship decks and is almost an auto-include for that theme. And the final artifact that I'll recommend is called the Skull Spore Nexus. I know, I said I wanted to reduce the average cost to cast in this deck, but hear me out. First, it has built-in cost reduction that could possibly get this down to costing just 2 mana, so that helps. Secondly, it replaces any non-token dinosaurs you control that die with a pretty sizable creature token. And lastly, it can even buff one of your big guys' power to make it very lethal. This is all just good utility packed into one card, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to recommend it just because its printed mana cost is high. Now we come to the combo section of this short guide. The combo I'm about to show you is so mana intensive that it borders on the janky side. It uses Zacama Primal Calamity, which came in the box, paired with the final card that I'll recommend adding to the deck, Temur Sabertooth. This combo is very mana intensive, like I said, so it's definitely a late game one. However, if you do happen to pull it off, it can result in the following: infinite mana, but only from mana produced by your lands, infinite artifact destruction, infinite damage to creatures, infinite enchantment destruction, infinite enters the battlefield triggers, infinite life gain and life gain triggers, infinite leaves the battlefield triggers, and infinite storm count. On its own, you will need lands that you control to be able to produce at least 2 green, 1 white, 1 red, and 8 generic mana to pull it off. But if you have Marauding Raptor and Herald's Horn in play, you can reduce that cost by 2 generic mana. If you don't see how this works, don't worry. Just click on the link that just popped up at the top of your screen, and it will take you to an explanation of how. And there you have it, folks, my upgrade guide for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Veloci-Ramptor Commander Precon. While everything that I just showed you will not make this Precon a top tier deck, it will make it more consistent and slightly better overall. Like I said in the unboxing video, I get why this was the Chase Precon. It had some decent reprints, and who doesn't want to trample their opponents with really large dinosaurs? For my taste though, I actually preferred the Merfolk deck a lot more. While the changes that I just went over will improve this deck, I just have a bias for blue and green paired together, and that deck spoke to me a lot more. While this guide presented the fewest changes that I've made to a Wizards Precon to date, I'd be interested in hearing what you all think about those changes. I'd also be interested in hearing what things you have or would change yourselves in the comments. Well, folks, that's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for watching, and if you're looking for more content to watch, please browse my playlist, as I'm sure you'll find more of my videos that you'll enjoy. Before you go, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when I release new content. Have a nice day, and I hope to see you all next Friday.